The Silent Prison by Obscura Chronicles. Chapter 1. Damian Shaw was determined not to let Ryan Blake get ahead. Ryan's car followed closely behind, and Damian watched him in the rearview mirror. Each time Ryan tried to advance, Damian subtly edged forward first. This silent contest began just as they left the city limits. Within minutes, Ryan, the assistant director of the National Crime Agency, lost his temper. The tension was heightened by the presence of his new stenographer, Alice. Ryan hadn't expected to encounter Damian on the road. Suddenly, Damian's car pulled alongside Ryan's and then surged ahead. Damian drove with cold precision, his focus unwavering. Alice, unfamiliar with Damian, observed quietly. Ryan cursed silently, unwilling to provoke a scene before her. Without warning, Damian's car forced a near collision, stopping inches from Ryan's vehicle after a sudden brake. Alice jolted forward, narrowly avoiding the dashboard. Grinding his teeth, Ryan stepped out. Damian emerged, his expression composed and polite. "My apologies, sir," he said calmly, then glanced at Alice. Before Ryan could respond, Damian continued smoothly, "Let's drop this. It's not my fault. The car is at fault. It drank last night. Alone, which is hardly enjoyable. So I borrowed a goat from the neighborhood, hoping for company. The goat, a devout creature, refused the drink, so I poured 4 measures into the petrol tank. The car is still intoxicated." Alice looked to Ryan, concerned. "Sir, this gentleman appears intoxicated, and driving under influence is a crime." "The car is intoxicated, madam," Damian replied with mock solemnity. "I assure you, I administered the drinks myself." Ryan was taken aback. Arguing was futile, yet retreating quietly seemed impossible. Alice's steely gaze implied she expected action. "May I see your license?" Alice asked. "Certainly," Damian nodded. Ryan then chuckled dryly. "Don't you know him? He's the Director General's nephew, a rather eccentric man." Alice scrutinized Damian, noting his brown trousers, pale yellow shirt and pink tie. "Where are you headed, Mr. Shaw?" Ryan asked, masking irritation with politeness. "Nowhere in particular," Damian said, eyes on Alice. "Is this your destination? You change your destinations often, transferring from one to another." Alice scowled and returned to the car. Ryan muttered, "What nonsense is this? Why change stenographers so frequently?" "That's none of your concern." "Just curious." Before Ryan could continue, he started his car and drove off. "He's completely unhinged," Ryan said to Alice. "Even Mr. Douglas Shaw has had enough and removed him from his department." "He seems like a fool," Alice replied. "Only in appearance. The truth is otherwise. But back there, he risked causing a serious accident." Ryan said nothing, wanting to end the conversation. "He was probably drunk," Alice said. "Number." "He doesn't drink," Ryan answered. Damian's car sped past again. Ryan realized Damian's destination was Ravenrock Fields, the site of a disturbing incident. Explosives had been used to clear rocks for a new road. Suddenly, fresh blood oozed from a pile of rocks. The overseer panicked, counting workers and checking the site. No one was missing, nor were there reports of intruders. Blood continued to seep from the stones. The overseer alerted city authorities, who involved the police. The case soon reached the National Crime Agency. Ryan was en route to investigate. Police awaited him. Ryan wondered if Damian planned to arrive. He resolved not to let him enter the restricted site. Alice tried to inquire about Damian again, but Ryan cut her off sharply. Accelerating, Ryan's car engaged in a reckless race with Damian's. Damian refused to yield, driving with a recklessness that unsettled even Alice, whose face turned pale. "You're interfering with an official investigation," Ryan shouted. "Everything you do is official," Damian's voice echoed from behind. "Is he mad?" Alice muttered. "Being the Director General's nephew doesn't excuse this arrogance." Ryan kept silent, anger simmering beneath his calm. They arrived at Ravenrock Fields, police already on site. Ryan and Alice entered through a wire fence. The bloodied rock area was cordoned off with barbed wire, guarded. The barren hills stretched wide. Rocks lay uprooted. Ryan examined the stains, unsure if the blood had flowed from the visible spots or elsewhere. He ordered photographs from multiple angles, then directed cranes to begin removing the rocks. Chapter 2. Damian did not try to enter the area cordoned off by barbed wire. He remained in his car, quietly reading a book. He ignored the commotion within the crime scene, his focus absolute. Ryan, meanwhile, was surprised by Damian's restraint. He knew Damian was capable of getting past any obstacle if he wished. Ryan stayed inside the cordoned area for a while, then returned to his car, frustration growing at the slow progress. Clearing the rocks would take time. Alice sat watching Damian, noting how detached he seemed. Damian did not even acknowledge their presence. After a few minutes, Ryan approached Damian. "Why are you here?" Ryan asked quietly. Damian looked up, his voice low and controlled. "I needed some time away from the noise. I don't get peace at home, that's all." Ryan's irritation deepened. "You should take this seriously." Damian's response was flat. "Seriousness does not change reality." Ryan shook his head and walked away, recognizing that Damian would not be drawn into an argument. "This will take hours," he told Alice. "Will all these rocks be removed?" she asked. "It's possible the blood originated further off," Ryan replied, lost in thought, then headed back into the restricted area, signaling Alice to wait in the car. Suddenly, Damian started his car and drove it sharply, stopping just inches from Ryan's. Alice gasped, fearing a collision, but Damian calmly switched off the engine and resumed reading. Ryan returned, tense. "Have you lost your mind?" Damian's reply was cold and dismissive. "Unsubstantiated rumor." Before Ryan could press further, an earth-shaking explosion tore through the site. A massive stone crashed down nearby. Screams erupted from the workers. Chaos spread as rocks tumbled, trapping some underneath. Damian emerged from his car, visibly shaken by the shockwave. The scale of the disaster became clear. At least 15 people were either severely wounded or dead. The cause of the explosion was unknown. Police sent urgent calls for ambulances, but some of the injured were in such dire condition that Ryan's own car was used to rush them to the city. Damian's car was abandoned at the scene. Ryan, Damian, and Alice stayed behind as the injured were evacuated and the dead remained for investigation. The site supervisor, pale and trembling, approached Ryan. "I don't know what happened, sir. It's impossible." Ryan's anger erupted. How could this happen? Was it leftover explosives? Carelessness? The supervisor denied it, desperate and uncertain. Damian stepped in, signaling the man to step aside. Ryan snapped, "You're not to leave without my permission." "Understood, sir," the man replied, retreating. The entire site was paralyzed by fear. No one wanted to approach the danger zone. Damian came to Ryan. "The explosion site may be outside their operational area." Ryan frowned. "How can you tell?" "Get the map." Ryan ordered the map, and a constable escorted the supervisor to fetch it. Alice, pale but composed, was asked by Damian to wait in his car. She complied. With the map in hand, Damian studied it with Ryan. This explosion occurred entirely outside their boundary, Damian concluded. They moved deeper into the restricted area where 5 bodies lay, 2 constables, 3 workers. Ryan asked, "Why did you come here?" Damian answered quietly, "To see for myself the source of the blood. Now, all that remains is blood." They pressed on, reaching the spot where cranes had begun to move the rocks. Damian pointed to the ground. "There's blood here too. It must have flowed from further up. The explosion happened exactly where the line of uprooted rocks ends." Ryan nodded grimly. "I see that. The overseer may not be at fault. No work has been done here since yesterday. If there had been a tunnel, it would have exploded earlier. The cause isn't obvious." "Blame is meaningless now," Damian replied. "Lives are lost. If it had been a natural disaster, who would we blame? But the nature of this explosion is disturbing." Without waiting for agreement, Damian began climbing the rocks. Ryan called after him, "What are you doing?" Damian's voice was calm, focused. If we don't examine the area now, the real cause will remain hidden. Reluctantly, Ryan followed. They reached a slope where a second blast had occurred. Amid the debris, Damian spotted something. Look! Blood, streaming down the rocks. Ryan felt his nerves falter. Damian descended to the slope, Ryan trailing behind. They stopped at the source of the blood, thin red streams oozing from beneath the stones. "Who was here today?" Damian asked, searching Ryan's face. "If no one is missing, whose blood is this?" He tried to see between the rocks, but found nothing. The two searched for a while until Damian abruptly moved to one side, kneeling to pry a shiny object from under a large rock. Ryan joined him, and together they managed to extract it, a heavy, polished steel disc about 2 inches wide. On one side was an image of a rising sun inside a circle. Ryan frowned. "What is this?" "It didn't get here by chance," Damian said, examining its shine. "Someone brought it, and recently." "Any idea what it means?" Ryan pressed. "Not yet. We need to clear the site further to know more." Damian made to pocket the disc, but Ryan stopped him. "You can't remove evidence." Damian handed it over, his expression unreadable. Soon, sirens broke the silence as police and ambulances arrived. Damian returned to his car. There was nothing more for him to do. Alice, waiting inside, watched as he slid into the driver's seat, deep in thought. "You both disappeared. I was worried," Alice said. Damian barely acknowledged her. He was distracted, his mind racing through possibilities. Alice stepped out, and Damian sat for a few moments, lost in thought, then drove away. As he pulled out, Alice chased after him, calling for him to stop. He paused as she approached. "You forgot your purse," he said, handing it to her. She took it without a word. Damian's mind lingered on the small pistol he'd noticed inside, but he made no comment. It was not unusual in his world for a secretary to be armed. Chapter 3. 3 days later, Ryan arrived at Damian's flat, visibly troubled. Damian sat alone, unusually quiet, a heavy seriousness about him. He barely acknowledged Ryan's arrival. Ryan sat down. "You seem different today. What's wrong?" Damian's gaze was fixed. "I'm thinking about your future," he said quietly. Ryan exhaled, masking his anxiety. "I came to talk about the blood found at Ravenrock Fields." Damian's tone was dry. "I may know more than you." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "What do you know?" "Just what's been leaked to the press." Number among the bodies pulled from under those rocks, some identities could raise concerns at the Foreign Office. Ryan bristled. "How would you know that?" "You've asked me similar things before," Damian replied. "Tell me what you really want." Ryan pressed. "No. First tell me how you found out." "Only a few people know these details." Damian's expression hardened. "Do you take me for an ordinary man?" "I don't even consider you a man," Ryan said, though his tone betrayed unease. 15 bodies, Damian continued, all chained and shackled, hidden within caverns carved into the rock. Ryan nodded reluctantly. "It seems the hills were used as dungeons, prisoners kept in complete secrecy." Damian remained unemotional. "There's nothing new about that. Humanity has built prisons inside mountains for centuries." Ryan was impatient. "But there's something odd about this case." Damian's gaze intensified. "The most disturbing fact is this. One of the bodies, an officer from the Foreign Office, was seen at his desk 2 days ago. Yet the bodies found today are at least 3 days old." Ryan's expression darkened. "You're sharing official secrets." "I've said nothing to an unofficial source." Ryan hesitated, then sighed. "I need your serious advice." Damian's response was immediate. "Be careful of your new steno." Ryan bristled. "Why are you obsessed with her?" "I'm only warning you." "If you don't want to help, say so," Ryan said, ready to leave. Damian's silence lingered. Finally, he asked, "That steel disc, is it safe with you?" Ryan hesitated. "It's missing." Damian stood abruptly. "Then there's nothing left to discuss." Ryan insisted. Was it really important? More than you realize. Did you show it to anyone? Ryan shook his head. I never thought it mattered. What about the new steno? Damian's tone sharpened. No, Ryan replied, frustrated. After a pause, Damian asked, Does your office keep samples of intelligence insignia from various countries? Yes. Check them. Closely. Ryan prepared to leave, exasperated by Damian's coldness. When Ryan was gone, Damian, known as Shadow Zero, has a subordinate named Cassandra Wycliffe. Any update on Ryan's steno? Damian asked. Nothing unusual, sir. Her routine hasn't changed. She's always at the Lancaster Hotel in the evenings. Is she ever with anyone? Number. She's always alone. Damian's tone was flat. She's suspicious. Keep her under surveillance. After ending the call, another phone rang, a private line. Damian answered. Logan Pierce, sir. The bearded man's been seen again. Where? Same house as before. Empty and still for rent. I saw him in the attic window just 15 minutes ago. Keep surveillance. Don't approach. As Damian hung up, another call came. Ryan. I've checked the insignia samples, Ryan said urgently. The disc you found is the mark of a foreign intelligence service. Damian's reply was terse. Then we have a problem. Can you help? Number this is your case now. Damian hung up without further word. Chapter 4. At 6 o'clock, Damian arrived at the Lancaster Hotel alone. He wore his usual sharp attire, but with none of the flamboyance that once drew attention. The bell captain briefly glanced at him, but allowed him inside, noting the evening suit requirement. Damian ignored the sign and entered the dining room, scanning the room for Alice. She was not there. Instead, he noticed Cassandra Wycliffe observing him from across the room. Damian approached and quietly took a seat at her table. Cassandra looked uncomfortable under the scrutiny of the other guests. Without a word, she excused herself and left the dining hall. Damian remained, ordered a coffee, and waited, but Alice did not appear. By 7:15, he stood and left. This change in Alice's routine unsettled him. He had kept track of her since before she became Ryan's secretary, especially after seeing her in the company of a mysterious, fair-skinned man with a brown beard, a likely foreign operative who once lived in a notorious building on Baxter Road. The day Alice joined Ryan's office, that building was suddenly vacated and put up for rent. Alice's appointment had not surprised Damian. She was attractive and highly qualified, but had left a better-paying private job for this position, an unusual move that deepened Damian's suspicions. He knew Ryan's pattern of hiring new stenographers every few months. Damian left the hotel and drove to Alice's residence at Wellington Court. He observed Lieutenant Ellsworth stationed discreetly nearby, but did not approach him. Reaching the upper floor undetected, Damian found Alice's flat locked. He returned to his car, stopping at a public phone booth to call Ryan Blake. Is Ryan home? He asked. Soon, Ryan's voice answered. It's me. Why didn't Alice come to the Lancaster Hotel tonight? And why are you at home? Ryan was irritated. Leave me alone, Damian. I need a straight answer. You usually bring her to the hotel. Tonight was important. What changed? Ryan deflected. Why are you so interested in Alice? Damian's tone sharpened. Be careful with her. Don't let her suspect you're watching her. If you don't follow my advice, it may cost you dearly. There was a pause, then Ryan admitted. She said she was unwell and went home from the office, Damian pressed. But her flat is locked. Maybe she wanted some time alone. You have no evidence against her, Damian. Not yet, but I will soon, Damian replied. Ryan dismissed his suspicions. You're overthinking this. She's interested in the work, that's all. She earned 1.5 times more at her last job. Oh, that's not a big deal, Ryan said. She wanted to join the investigation department, like the NCA. The Ravenrock Fields case excites her. Damian ended the call, unconvinced, and remained parked outside Wellington Court, determined to uncover the truth. Chapter 5. 1 hour later, Damian's car pulled into the residence of Sir Oliver Fairfax, Secretary of the Foreign Office. Fairfax, a long-time admirer and Damian's direct superior, greeted him promptly. "Well, Damian, what's your assessment?" Sir Oliver asked, anxious. Damian's reply was curt. "Much has happened before I could intervene. Why was news of Brigadier Graham's body released? It wasn't made public. Only a handful know. But someone impersonated Brigadier Graham the day before the body was found." Damian's voice was grave. "No one recognized the imposter. He came straight from military headquarters to my office. It was only after the body was found that we realized the deception." Damian pressed. "How was the body identified?" "The man posing as Graham was a perfect lookalike. It was only after the real body was discovered that the truth emerged." "And the other 14 bodies?" "That's the problem. No one can identify them or explain why they were held." Sir Oliver met Damian's eyes. "This is a critical security breach. For a week and a half, an unknown man worked inside the Foreign Office. Who knows what secrets he accessed?" Damian asked. "Was his brief checked?" "He hadn't been assigned any work yet. It appears to be a coincidence, but he had free access to the building." "What was the agreement he was due to work on?" "A sensitive paramilitary agreement with another country." Damian was thoughtful. "That makes this situation even more urgent. Most of the victims are unidentifiable, their bodies crushed. Only 5 can even be partially recognized." "Ryan Blake is investigating," Sir Oliver offered. "I know. I want to be sure you're taking action as well," Damian said. "I'm not neglecting it, Damian, but your attitude is worrying." "These are highly uncertain times, sir," Damian replied, frustrated. "I haven't found a clear path yet. If I can't solve it, the responsibility falls to you." Sir Oliver was taken aback. "Why me?" "You always tell me to be serious. Whenever I try, things go wrong. If I fail, the burden is yours." Sir Oliver managed a thin smile. "Don't be melodramatic, Damian." Damian turned to leave, but Sir Oliver didn't stop him. Driving through the city, Damian felt directionless. He stopped at a phone booth and called Cassandra. "Any updates from Ellsworth or Logan?" Damian asked. Cassandra's tone was tense. "Logan is in hospital. He fainted outside the house on Baxter Road, injured his head in the fall." "Have you spoken to him?" "Yes. He doesn't remember what happened. The house is no longer under surveillance. I tried to reach you several times." "And Ellsworth?" "He reported Alice hasn't returned to her flat. It's still locked." "Tell Ellsworth his assignment is finished for now. I'll contact you again." Chapter 6. Shortly afterward, Damian managed to reach Logan by phone. Logan had been discharged from the hospital but could not explain his sudden loss of consciousness. He remembered only that a man had lingered near him, smoking a cigarette with an oddly unpleasant smell. Logan suspected the fainting spell was caused by the smoke. "Can you describe him?" Damian asked. "I can't, sir. I thought he was just a passerby. I barely looked at him." Damian's mind was working quickly. "So the substance worked almost instantly. You didn't have time to get a good look." "That's right, sir." "Rest and recover, Logan." "Is your head injury severe?" "No, just a minor cut." Damian ended the call and left the phone booth. He drove toward Baxter Road, the location of the so-called haunted house. Parking discreetly on a side street, he checked the time. It was nearly 11. The city was quiet, shops closed, only a few late-night cafes still open. Damian walked the deserted streets, pausing at the corner of Joseph Road and Victoria Road to plan his next move. Approaching Baxter Road, he slowed his pace. The entire street was deserted, eerily silent. Any attempt to break into the building now would be reckless. The absence of witnesses made every shadow dangerous. The night's emptiness convinced him to abandon the plan. For now, why had Logan really fainted? It couldn't have been accidental. Damian concluded that whoever was inside the building knew they were being watched and had acted to neutralize the threat. He walked through the silent streets, careful not to draw attention, and made a long detour back to his car. As he drove home, Damian's mind shifted into a focused, almost automatic state. Back at his flat, he prepared for a new role. By mid:30, he transformed his appearance completely. Wild beard, tangled hair, eyes burning with intensity, wearing the ragged clothes of an escaped convict. With his disguise in place, he set out for Wellington Court on foot, blending into the darkness. He reached Alice's building, its windows black. Her flat was unlocked. Damian broke a pane of glass, reached in, and unlatched the door. It was only by chance that the lower latch hadn't been set. Otherwise, even Damian's skills would not have gotten him inside so easily. He entered, quietly closing the door behind him. Instantly, light from another room cut through the darkness. Damian pressed himself against the wall as Alice, in a nightdress, emerged holding a pistol. She moved cautiously into the corridor. Damian stepped forward and seized the pistol, his voice low and threatening. "Don't make a sound, or I'll kill you." He pressed the muzzle to her temple. Alice stared at him, unflinching, her eyes showing no fear. "You'll die before I'm taken," Damian said in a harsh whisper. "Who are you hiding from?" Alice shot back. "The police." Alice's face didn't change. "So you've come here to make me a target as well?" "I'll stay until they're gone." She watched him coldly. "Do what you must." Without argument, she walked back to her bedroom, sat on the bed, and pointed to a chair. "Sit." Damian sat, keeping the pistol aimed at her. "Give me back my weapon," she said evenly. "No." "Even if I scream, you won't shoot me." "Try it," Damian replied, his tone flat. She looked at him for a long moment. "Why are you really here?" She recognized Damian even in this disguise. Damian was silent. Alice's voice hardened. "This isn't about the police. You saw the pistol in my purse the other day, and you're here to confirm something. Am I right?" "Yes." "You think I'm involved in something criminal?" "I had to be certain," Damian said. "You carry a weapon. I had to know why." Alice stared at him, then crossed to a suitcase, retrieving an envelope. "Here. My father was a decorated soldier. The license for this pistol is legal, passed down." Damian checked the license, satisfied it was real. He handed it back. "I misjudged you," Damian admitted quietly. Alice's gaze remained steady. "Why do you care?" Damian's expression was unreadable. "Ryan will use you until you're no longer useful. He cycles through his staff often." She was unmoved. "I wanted this job for my own reasons. I don't need your concern." "You're not paid what you deserve," Damian continued, his tone matter-of-fact. "Ryan pays you extra, off the record. You'll see soon enough." Alice flushed with anger. "If that's true, he'll regret treating me the way he has." Damian's face was unreadable. "You won't win against him. He has power and influence." "We'll see," Alice replied quietly. A tense silence fell between them. Finally, Alice asked, "Why the disguise?" Damian's tone was cold. "When I first saw you, your change in employment and your armed status made you suspicious. I thought you might be working for someone else. I needed to see for myself." Alice watched Damian in silence. "Suppose I was involved with a criminal gang. What would you do?" she asked finally. "My job is to uncover the truth, no matter where it leads," Damian replied evenly. "Ryan knows my methods, and he knows I can find evidence against anyone, even him." "You're dangerous," Alice said quietly. "One day, someone will stop you." "It hasn't happened yet," Damian answered, passing her the pistol. "Go ahead, if you feel you must." Alice took the pistol, but her hands were steady. "You know I won't shoot." "You could," Damian said, eyes on her. "If I died here, no one would doubt your story." Alice stared at him, then abruptly stood and fired bullets into a vase across the room, shattering it. She turned back, pointing the gun at Damian. He didn't flinch. After a long pause, she lowered the weapon. "You always walk away unharmed, don't you?" Damian remained unmoved. "That's what experience is." Alice sat on the edge of the bed, emotion flickering across her face. "You may be clever, but you do nothing worthwhile with your abilities. All you bring is trouble." Damian's tone hardened. "Don't talk about this. I didn't come here for that. Do you still live with that Colombian woman? Alice asked coldly. Not anymore. She had too much pride. I can't use people like that. But you used to handle work for Ryan. I haven't for a long time, and I don't intend to. Alice's tone softened, curiosity returning. I'm interested in investigation. That's why I chose this job. Then learn from experience, not fiction, Damian said. May I go? She looked away. Stay if you like. I don't care anymore. Damian stood, ready to leave. There's nothing more for me here. You're not what I thought. Will you teach me your trick, the one with the bullets? Alice asked suddenly. Damian met her eyes, his expression flat. That's not a lesson for just anyone. I learned it from someone far more dangerous than you. Changzhu? She guessed. Damian nodded. He taught me in Paris, during a time when crossing him meant death. You think you're better than Major Daniel Weston? Alice challenged. I trust my own skill above all, Damian replied. Anyone who faces me should be prepared. Alice handed his revolver back, her voice low. Perhaps we'll meet again. Damian gathered his disguise and left, the door closing quietly behind him. Chapter 7. The next morning, Damian called Cassandra Wycliffe, ordering her to keep Alice under strict surveillance. Cassie sounded shaken. I made a mistake last night, sir. What happened? You told me to pull Ellsworth from Wellington Court, but I forgot. Still, his report may help you. What does it say? Alice returned to her flat at 11:45 p.m. She wasn't alone. A tall man was with her, but his face wasn't visible. At 1 o'clock, Lieutenant Cromwell took over surveillance. He saw a stranger break the flat's glass door and enter around 2 a.m. An hour later, the man left. The inner room was lit. Damian pressed, and the tall man who entered with Alice. He stayed all night, left at 5 a.m. No one followed him. Number your orders were only for surveillance. Damian's tone grew cold. You should have shown some initiative. Assign at least 3 people to cover it now. He hung up, troubled. The presence of the tall man, unknown, unseen, bothered him. He tried to piece together the night's events, but couldn't resolve the identity of the man. He knew it couldn't be the brown-bearded suspect who first drew his attention to Alice. His thoughts were interrupted by the phone ringing. Ryan Blake's voice, tense. Damian! Come to Wellington Court immediately. Alice has been murdered. I'm waiting. The call ended abruptly. Damian felt a surge of anger. Every step he took seemed blocked. He changed clothes, grabbed his car, and sped to Wellington Court. The whole drive, his mind was racing. Arriving, he noticed something strange. No police presence, no commotion, nothing out of the ordinary. Suspicious, he considered leaving, but then saw Ryan's car arriving, followed by a police vehicle. Damian stopped. You told me you were already here, Ryan, but you're just arriving. Ryan was equally confused. What? Someone called me and said Alice had been murdered. I just got here. You called me with the same story, Damian replied, his suspicion rising. Ryan asked, No, I didn't call you. Did you go up to the flat? Number I didn't see any police here, so I was about to leave. Wait here, I'm going up, Ryan ordered, signaling the police inspector to join him. As soon as they disappeared, Damian quickly turned his car and fled. The constables hadn't overheard their conversation, otherwise his escape would have been far more difficult. Damian drove recklessly, convinced he was being framed. He knew the killer had tried to draw him to the scene, knowing his fingerprints would be found on a chair and likely on Alice's pistol. The bullet marks in the walls would add to the confusion. He also realized the murderer might have used Alice's own pistol with his prints still on it. Now, for all intents and purposes, Damian was a wanted man. In the eyes of the law, he was no longer the investigator. He was the hunted. At home, he disconnected the phone with the unlisted number, packed his transmitter and disguise kit, and left. Minutes later, he was gone, vanishing into the deserted outskirts of the city. Chapter 8. At 7 in the evening, Ryan entered the house of Mr. Douglas Shaw, Damian's uncle. The concern was clear on his face as the servant led him into the drawing room. Mr. Douglas soon appeared. "Sit. What's the news?" Mr. Douglas asked. Ryan hesitated. "I don't know what to do. In Alice's flat, Damian's fingerprints were found, on a chair and on the murder weapon. The pistol belonged to Alice and was legally registered to her. Now you tell me, what am I supposed to do?" Mr. Douglas was unmoved. "Do what you think is right. If Damian is guilty, I won't protect him." Ryan's voice broke. "He's my friend. How can I? Maybe it's better if I'm transferred." "For even suggesting that, I could suspend you," Mr. Douglas said coldly. "If Damian is guilty, he is neither my nephew nor your friend. Do your duty." The phone rang. Mr. Douglas answered. "Is Ryan Blake there?" came Damian's voice. Mr. Douglas bristled. "Who is this? Damian, where are you calling from?" "I can't tell the Director General. Put Ryan on the line." Mr. Douglas handed the receiver to Ryan, his expression hard. "Ryan?" Damian's voice was urgent. "The murder happened between 3 and 5 a.m. At that time, I was at home. Don't let fingerprints mislead you. Yes, my prints will be on the pistol and the chair. I was there, but I left her alive." "Why did you go there?" Ryan demanded. "To find answers," Damian replied. "If I hadn't gone, she might still be alive. Whoever she worked for must have realized I was onto her. So you didn't kill her?" "Number, why would I?" "Listen, Ryan, there's a tall man, walks with a slight limp. He's your real lead." Ryan's mind raced. Suddenly, Mr. Douglas whispered, "Keep him talking," and left the room to trace the call. Damian continued, "Don't waste time on me. The real danger is still out there." Then, almost playfully, Damian said, "You're being too informal." "Has my uncle left the room to trace the call? I'm at public booth number 14. I'm leaving. Good night." The line went dead just as Mr. Douglas returned. "Public booth number 14, he said, then glared at Ryan. "You couldn't even keep him talking." Ryan explained, "He figured it out from my tone." Mr. Douglas was furious. "I don't care. Bring Damian in within 3 days." "I'll do my best, sir." "Anything else?" "No, sir." Ryan left, determination and uncertainty warring within him. Chapter 9. Despite all disguises, a person can be recognized by their eyes and their walk. Damian addressed this by wearing dark glasses and deliberately altering his gait, making recognition nearly impossible. He was focused now on the man with the limp, someone who put more weight on his right foot, just as Lieutenant Cromwell's surveillance had reported. This same detail matched the man who'd impersonated Brigadier Graham in the Foreign Office. Damian had already researched Brigadier Graham. The real officer was tall but walked without a limp. That clue alone marked the imposter. But Damian knew the trail at Baxter Road was cold. Logan's fainting and recent events made it clear that the suspects would no longer use that location. He was at an impasse. Neither logic nor intuition produced results, and his subordinates were also searching for the tall man without success. Now there were 2 confirmed charges against this suspect: the impersonation at the Foreign Office and the murder of Alice. This was not just a theory. Fingerprint experts had confirmed it. The same prints were found both at Alice's flat and in the Foreign Office. From a public phone booth, Damian called Cassandra Wycliffe for the Daily Report. "We've found a lead," Cassandra said. "A man with a limp who works in Colonel Edwards' office and lives in the same building. Colonel Edward is retired military, now in Import-Export, office on Dover Street, residence at 15 Kensington Road." "Who made the initial ID?" Damian asked. "Captain Bramwell, and I've confirmed it. This is definitely the man we're looking for." "His role in Edward's office?" "Still unknown. We're investigating." "And Logan?" "Resting. I took him off the case. He was noticed by the suspects." Damian acknowledged her decision. "Good. Keep your focus." Cassie hesitated. "Compliments don't please me unless you give them in person." "That might never happen," Damian replied, but aloud, "Permission granted if you find me." "Not now," Damian cut her off. For now, keep working. Yes, sir. But I think you should see this man yourself. If we're wrong, we'll know immediately. Damian gave a brief, cold laugh. So you're planning to identify me by watching for someone near Colonel Edward's office, is that it? Cassie laughed too. Just don't mistake the old man who's always hanging around there for Shadow Zero. There is someone like that, Damian confirmed. He's clever enough to get close to the tall man before you did. Who is he? Damian? Damian's already there. Cassie was surprised. Yes. Ryan has a warrant out for his arrest, but his presence doesn't threaten us. But how did Damian enter Alice's flat without our team noticing? That was the mysterious man who broke the glass, Damian explained. Cassie's voice tightened. Then he was there at the murder. I don't know if he's involved, but remember, Damian's arrest would hurt us. He's working hard for Shadow Zero, without even realizing it. So should we covertly protect him? Yes. But never let him know. And listen, I have an idea. Threaten Damian with arrest if he doesn't cooperate. That way, he'll have no choice. I understand. What's his current disguise? Thick white beard, dark glasses, redness, and swelling around the nose. You'll find him in the restaurant across from Colonel Edward's office. Understood. Damian hung up, already planning his next move. Chapter 10. Damian reached the restaurant before Cassie, blending in as an elderly, bearded Eurasian with dark glasses. He sat quietly with his tea until Cassie arrived, approaching him directly. Without preamble, she leaned in. We know you entered Alice's flat. You'll have to cooperate with us now, Damian. He studied her coldly. You think you can threaten me? We know enough to force your hand, Cassie replied, her voice low. You have a choice. Work with Shadow Zero or face arrest. Damian nodded slowly. On one condition. I'll follow no one's instructions but my own. Cassie hesitated, then agreed. As long as you get results. Then you'll do as I say, Damian said quietly. Starting now. You must get a job inside Colonel Edward's office. That's the only way to watch our suspect closely. Cassie's expression hardened. That's a dangerous move. Damian was unyielding. It's necessary. Without someone inside, we'll never get close. At that moment, a man at a nearby table, clearly listening, stood and interrupted. Excuse me, did I hear you mention Colonel Edward? I'm his firm's assistant manager. Damian turned to him with calculated warmth. We meant no offense. My companion here is simply looking for honest work. The assistant manager relaxed, then explained, There's currently no vacancy, but I might be able to arrange something. He escorted Cassie to Colonel Edward's office to make the introduction. 30 minutes later, Cassie returned with the manager and a tall man whose limp matched the description of the suspect Damian was tracking. The manager addressed Damian. Congratulations. She starts work tomorrow. Damian shook his hand, his voice calm, but eyes intent on the tall man. Thank you. I appreciate your help. At the same time, Damian noticed the tall man glaring at him. Is something wrong with your eyes, sir? The man asked, noticing Damian's dark glasses. It isn't even sunny. I always wear dark glasses, Damian replied calmly, removing them to reveal reddened, irritated eyes. Trust me, you wouldn't want to see them. Cassie quickly interjected, Please, put them back on. Damian complied. Cassie's heart pounded as she realized how dangerous their suspect was, and she was quietly impressed by Damian's quick thinking. Damian said, I'll be staying close to you from now on. What are you talking about? I'll be your father, whether you like it or not. I'm not letting you stay at my place, Cassie retorted. I wouldn't advise you to go home either. You didn't give them your address, did you? No, but I'll have to tomorrow. Was Colonel Edward present? Yes. He tested my typing skills himself. He's dangerous, especially around women. His reputation is notorious. Why involve me in this? They'll be suspicious. Damian shook his head. That's why I said don't go home. We're likely being watched already. We'll stay at the safe house your team uses. Cassie was surprised. How do you know about that? Let's just say I keep track of everything. And yes, your key is still in your purse. She gave him a wary look. So you're targeting the tall man? Yes, but we need proof. I had you take this job so you could get his fingerprints. We'll match them to those found at Alice's flat and in the Foreign Office. Cassie didn't trust him completely. You're hiding something. Damian ignored her suspicion. Just follow my instructions, and don't look back. We're being followed. Cassie's unease grew at Damian's serious tone. They continued in silence, boarded a bus, and made their way to the safe house, a quiet street in a middle-class area where they could regroup and plan their next move. Cassie unlocked the safe house and entered with Damian. We're in, Damian said quietly. There's a phone, we can use it. What's the plan? Cassie demanded. Choose your 2 smartest colleagues to keep watch on the man from Edward's office, Damian instructed. Was someone really following us? Cassie asked uneasily. Maybe. You were chosen for this department, weren't you? Damian replied, not answering directly. Cassie was irritated. If we were followed, it's because you sent me to Edward's office. I made sure we were followed. It was necessary, Damian said, voice cold. Just trust me. Cassie hesitated, then looked out the window. A man was loitering at the corner, glancing at house numbers. She quickly called Captain Bramwell, reported the situation, and asked for backup. Bramwell said he and Ellsworth would arrive soon. Damian, watching her, offered a pack of chewing gum. This might be dinner tonight. Cassie only stared at him, tension in her face. What's next? We wait, Damian said. There's nothing else to do right now. What if we have to stay here all night? Then we will, Damian replied, expression unchanged. With no beds, they would sleep on the floor if necessary. Cassie disappeared into the other room, leaving Damian deep in thought. The next morning, Cassie prepared to go to Colonel Edward's office. She and Damian left together, scanning the streets, but saw no sign of surveillance. Cassie took a bus, still anxious. Damian went his own way. Cassie worried about the uncertainty of their situation. The night before, she'd tried to contact Shadow Zero, but the phone lines seemed dead. Only static answered her calls. Damian had told her it could mean the lines were cut, but she'd stayed inside. At the office, Cassie signed in as Cassie Johnson, the alias Damian had chosen for her. The assistant manager gave her a few files to copy, but there was little real work. The manager, Dr. Howarth, reassured her. I only brought you in so you could observe Colonel Edward. He's a good man, strict but fair. No one here flirts, and everyone is treated the same. Colonel Edward believes no woman should be treated differently in the office. Cassie listened, but remained cautious. Her instincts told her Colonel Edward was not what he appeared. His presence was strong, commanding, and she knew she'd need to be careful. At the end of the day, Colonel Edward offered Cassie a ride. Reluctantly, she accepted, unsettled by his forwardness. As they drove, his grip tightened on her hand, making her uneasy. The city gave way to an isolated estate. Cassie realized she'd made a mistake. She checked for her purse. It was missing. Looking for this? Colonel Edward asked coldly. It's under my seat. No need for a woman to carry a pistol. Where are you taking me? Cassie demanded, panic rising. I'll show you exactly what kind of man I am, he said. Don't try to escape. You won't succeed. As the car stopped in a deserted area, Cassie saw a black van following. She hoped it was help, but when it pulled up, the tall man from Edward's office emerged. He dragged her from the car as Edward ordered him to take her into the bushes. Cassie resisted, but the tall man's grip was crushing. She was forced to the ground, a knife at her chest. Who are you really? Edward demanded, pressing the knife harder. Talk, or you won't leave here alive. Cassie tried to appear helpless, but Edward wasn't fooled. You're carrying a weapon. You're not just a secretary. If you don't answer, you'll die here, and your body will never be found. Before he could act further, Damian appeared from the trees, pistols drawn. Let her go, he ordered. Both men turned, startled. The tall man lunged at Damian, but Damian fired a stream of liquid from a disguised pistol directly into the man's eyes. The tall man staggered, blinded, and collapsed. Damian did the same to Colonel Edward, who howled in pain. Damian moved quickly, kicking the tall man aside, then subduing Edward. Both men writhed on the ground, helpless and unable to see. "Cassie, are you all right?" Damian asked, staying alert. Cassie managed to stand, trembling but safe. Damian watched the two attackers struggling in the dirt, their attempted violence turned back on them. He quickly restrained them, tying their hands behind their backs. "We'll wait for backup," Damian said to Cassie. "Don't worry, they can't hurt you now." Cassie was still shaken, but Damian's intervention had saved her life. As the sun set, police sirens could be heard in the distance, closing in. Chapter 11. A short time later, Damian and Cassie drove back toward the city in Colonel Edward's car. The tall man and Colonel Edward, unconscious and bound, lay in the back seat. Their van had been left behind in the woods. Damian kept his eyes on the road. These two are agents of a hostile power. They set up secret prisons in the hills at Ravenrock Fields, holding high-ranking government officers and torturing them for information. Sometimes their own men would take the places of the missing officers. Brigadier Graham is a prime example. Cassie was silent, shaken by what she'd witnessed. "Are you certain of all this?" "Yes, but there's someone in this city who's always a step ahead of me. I've never met him, only spoken to him by phone. He told me you'd be outside Colonel Edward's office and insisted I get you a job there. Any idea who he is? Is there a ninth person in your unit?" Cassie kept her voice steady. "No, there's no one else." She lied easily, thinking of Shadow Zero's careful secrecy. Damian pressed on. After the roadwork at Ravenrock Fields exposed one of their prisons, the group destroyed another to cover their tracks. That's how Brigadier Graham's body was found. "Why keep prisoners alive at all?" Cassie asked. "They killed most of them, I believe. Only those from whom secrets could be extracted were spared. How will you prove all this?" "I've tracked down several of their hideouts and already captured their ringleader, the brown-bearded foreigner who spoke perfect Urdu. He lived in the haunted house on Baxter Road. Even without all that, the tall man's fingerprints are proof, matching those at Alice's flat and in the Foreign Office. Alice was part of their network. She was killed because she came under suspicion." As they reached the outskirts of the city, Damian pulled over. "I need to make a call." He used the Marlborough post office to alert Lieutenant Ellsworth, arranging for backup to intercept them. By the time Damian returned, night had fallen. He pretended to inspect the engine, buying more time for Cassie's colleagues to get into position. 15 minutes later, he got behind the wheel again. Cassie glanced at him. "How did you end up in those bushes?" "I hid in the back of the van," Damian replied simply. "Waited for the right moment." Cassie clenched her jaw. "You watched all that happen and said nothing." It was the only way to get them both at once. Before Cassie could respond, Damian had to brake hard. 7 men blocked the road ahead. Damian recognized the voices, Lieutenant Cromwell and his team. "Get out, nephew. It's for your own good," Cromwell called. Damian sighed. "Here comes the end of all my hard work," he muttered to Cassie as the doors were flung open and he was dragged from the car. Cassie watched in silence, knowing the handover was part of Shadow Zero's plan. As the car drove away, Damian's frustration was evident, but Cassie remained outwardly calm. She didn't know Shadow Zero was among them all along. No one will know that Damian is Shadow Zero. Chapter 12. The next morning, Damian was at his flat, reviewing paperwork when Elias, his servant, answered a persistent knock at the door. Ryan Blake entered, face tense with anger. Elias quickly retreated. Ryan glared at Damian. "Whatever happens, I will see you in handcuffs. You embarrassed me. Why didn't you hand the criminals over to me directly? Your warrant is active and your fingerprints are on Alice's revolver. You'll have to answer in court." Damian met his gaze, voice even. "I can defend myself right here. I've already explained myself. If you insist on dragging me to court over a technicality, you're only wasting everyone's time." Ryan pulled a warrant from his pocket. "I'm under orders." Your uncle said no leniency. I have no choice. Damian produced his own paper. Maybe you should read this first. Ryan's expression changed as he read the cancellation of Damian's arrest warrant signed by Sir Oliver Fairfax. He realized he had lost. I don't believe this, Ryan muttered, reaching for the phone. He called the magistrate who had issued the warrant, but after a brief exchange, his face was pale and defeated. Damian observed calmly. Shall I get you some water? I'm resigning, Ryan snapped. Suit yourself, Damian replied. Ryan stormed out. A faint smile touched Damian's lips. Moments later, the phone rang. Cassandra Wycliffe was on the line. Hello, Damian. I did the hard work, but no one here values that, Damian replied, his tone cold. Cassie pressed. What happened with the warrant? It's cancelled. That's all you need to know. Before she could say more, Damian hung up, already planning his next move. If you enjoyed this story, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share this video with friends, and hit the like button. Stay tuned for the next thrilling adventure of Damian Shaw. Coming soon.